Have you ever felt trapped in a whirlwind of negativity where every doubt about yourself comes crashing down like a tidal wave? It's a feeling we all encounter at some point. Those times when a minor setback seems catastrophic and every insecurity bubbles to the surface. Suddenly, we start questioning our abilities, our worth, and the choices we've made. This kind of negative self-talk can be incredibly destructive, draining our motivation, confidence, and even joy. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to be this way. I remember these moments vividly. There were times when I felt utterly overwhelmed by my own thoughts, as if an unforgiving inner critic had taken control, seizing every opportunity to highlight my flaws. It became a habit, and as we know, habits can be difficult to break. Everything changed when I stumbled upon Stoicism. This ancient philosophy, with its practical and clear approach to dealing with life's uncertainties, became my lifeline, helping me regain my peace of mind and take control of my thoughts. The teachings of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of Stoicism's most influential philosophers, were especially transformative for me. He said, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." This simple yet profound idea helped me realize that my negative thoughts were not immutable truths. They were simply interpretations, and I had the power to change them. It was a revelation that transformed how I approached my inner struggles. Today, I want to share how the timeless wisdom of Stoicism can help all of us break free from the grip of negative thoughts and self-doubt. Chapter 1. Recognizing Negative Thoughts and Overcoming Self-Doubt. The first step to overcoming negative thoughts is recognizing them for what they are. Negative thoughts aren't inherently harmful, they're just thoughts. The problem arises when we mistake them for truths. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, once said, "It is not the things themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about these things." In other words, it's not the events we experience that determine our emotions, but the way we interpret those events. Imagine, for example, you make a mistake at work. Let's say you miss an important deadline. A negative thought might quickly follow, "I'm so incompetent, I'll never succeed." But is that thought really true? Or is it just a judgment influenced by the frustration of the moment? When you start to see your thoughts as subjective interpretations rather than objective facts, it becomes easier to step back from them. Negative self-talk can have a massive impact on our lives. It can sap our motivation, instill a fear of challenges, and warp our view of our abilities and potential. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Persistent negativity doesn't just affect your mood, it changes how you see yourself, how you see the world, and what you believe is possible. Recognizing these thought patterns requires vigilance. Many of us have lived with these thoughts for so long that they feel like an inherent part of who we are. But they aren't. They are just habits, habitual ways of interpreting the world around us. Imagine if, instead of letting these negative voices dominate your thoughts, you could train your mind to respond with curiosity and kindness. It takes effort, but it starts with the awareness that these thoughts are not you. Chapter 2. Transforming Your Perspective. So how do we break free from this cycle of negativity? One of the most powerful tools offered by Stoicism is learning to transform your perspective. As Epictetus wisely stated, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." By changing our perspective, we can transform our experience. Consider the example of missing that work deadline. Instead of interpreting it as a sign of incompetence, what if you reframed it as an opportunity to learn and improve? What if, instead of criticizing yourself, you reminded yourself that everyone makes mistakes and that setbacks are an inevitable part of growth? The Stoics weren't just philosophers. They were practical guides who wanted to help people navigate life's challenges. They understood that how we interpret events directly affects our experience. The story of Seneca, a Stoic philosopher and advisor to Emperor Nero, serves as a great example of this principle. In one of his letters, Seneca recounts how a friend was deeply troubled by a nightmare. Seneca advised him to focus on what was real, rather than letting his imagination run wild. He said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." This is what negative thoughts are: imagined fears that arise from our own minds. By choosing to look at situations objectively, we can prevent these fears from taking over. Here's a simple exercise to help you put this into practice. Whenever you notice a negative thought creeping in, write it down. Then ask yourself, is this really true? Is there a different way I could look at this situation? Challenge the thought and replace it with a more balanced, constructive one. It may take time, but with practice, you'll start to notice a shift in how you think and feel. Chapter 3: Taking charge of what you can control. A fundamental tenet of Stoic philosophy is focusing on what you can control. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." While we may not have control over the events in our lives, we do have control over our responses. Imagine being passed over for a promotion at work. You might think, "I'm not good enough, I'll never get ahead." But the reality is, you can't control the decision that was made. What you can control is your response. You can choose to dwell on the negativity, or you can use the experience as motivation to grow. Perhaps you could seek feedback, work on your skills, and apply again. By focusing on what is within your power, you turn the situation into an opportunity for growth rather than a defeat. Epictetus himself embodied this principle. Born into slavery, he had very little control over his circumstances. But instead of becoming bitter, he focused on what he could control: his mindset and his response to life. He famously said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." This approach helped him overcome the hardships he faced and ultimately become one of the most influential philosophers of his time. Taking charge of what you can control also means letting go of what you cannot. We often spend enormous amounts of energy worrying about things that are beyond our influence, whether it's other people's opinions, the past, or even the future. This doesn't mean we shouldn't care, but rather that we should focus our energy on the actions that we can take, rather than ruminating over things we can't change. Chapter 4: Cultivating Resilience Through Stoic Practices. Building resilience requires more than understanding Stoic principles intellectually. It requires putting them into practice. One effective practice is negative visualization. This involves contemplating the worst that could happen, not to dwell on it, but to prepare yourself emotionally. Imagine, for example, losing your job. It sounds frightening, but by imagining this scenario, you can mentally prepare yourself. You might think about how you would cope, what steps you would take, and remind yourself that you have the strength to face difficult situations. This practice helps us appreciate what we have and builds our resilience, making us less likely to be overwhelmed when challenges arise. Marcus Aurelius faced immense personal loss, including the death of several of his children. Yet he continued to lead with wisdom and compassion, writing in his meditations, "How ridiculous and unrealistic is the man who is astonished at anything that happens in life." By preparing for the worst, Marcus was able to remain steady, even in the face of great adversity. Another practice that fosters resilience is the Stoic exercise of premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This involves visualizing future hardships so that you are not caught off guard when they occur. Rather than living in fear of negative outcomes, this practice enables us to mentally rehearse our responses, cultivating a sense of preparedness and reducing the anxiety of the unknown. Chapter 5: Creating a Positive Environment. The Stoics also understood the importance of our social environment. Epictetus advised, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." The people around us can either reinforce our negative thoughts or help us rise above them. Think of a time when you were around someone who believed in you, a mentor, a friend, or a family member. How did that make you feel? Their belief in you likely helped you believe in yourself. Now think of the opposite, being around someone who constantly criticizes or doubts you. It's easy to see how their negativity can become contagious. By choosing to surround ourselves with people who uplift and inspire us, we create an environment where we can thrive. We can also choose to be that positive influence for others. Just like Luffy in the anime One Piece, whose crew members support and believe in each other, we too can build a circle of positivity that propels us forward. It's also important to curate your mental environment. In addition to the people you surround yourself with, consider the media you consume, the conversations you engage in, and even the thoughts you entertain. Are they uplifting? Are they contributing to your growth? By intentionally choosing what to allow into your mental space, you create fertile ground for positive growth. Chapter 6. Practicing Gratitude and Finding Contentment. Another powerful Stoic practice is cultivating gratitude. Marcus Aurelius said, "Do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the blessings you do possess." When we focus on what we have rather than what we lack, we shift from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance. Take a moment to think about 3 things you are grateful for right now. It could be your health, a relationship, or even just the fact that you have a roof over your head. Notice how this shift in focus makes you feel lighter, more content, and less weighed down by negativity. Gratitude is a simple but profound way to bring more positivity into our lives. Gratitude also helps us combat the tendency to compare ourselves to others. In a world that often glorifies constant achievement, it's easy to feel like we're falling short. But when we focus on our own blessings, we are less likely to fall into the trap of comparison. We begin to appreciate our unique journey and find contentment in what we have. Chapter 7. Embracing Acceptance and Letting Go. Acceptance is another key Stoic principle. Epictetus said, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well." Much of our suffering comes from resisting reality, wanting things to be different from how they are. Consider a situation where you face disappointment, perhaps a relationship that ended, or an opportunity that fell through. If you cling to how you wish things had gone, you only prolong your suffering. But if you accept what happened and let go of your resistance, you free yourself to move forward. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means acknowledging what is, so you can take your next steps with clarity and peace. The concept of amor fati, or the love of one's fate, is central to Stoicism. It teaches us to embrace all of life's experiences, both good and bad, as necessary parts of our journey. Rather than merely tolerating what happens, we learn to love it, seeing it as a part of our growth. This attitude of acceptance allows us to find meaning even in difficult circumstances and to let go of resistance. Chapter 8. Self-Reflection for Continuous Growth. The Stoics placed great value on self-reflection. Epictetus advised, "When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. By looking inward and examining our thoughts and actions, we can grow. Instead of blaming others or getting caught in self-doubt, we can ask ourselves what role we played in the situation and what we can learn from it." Self-reflection is not about beating yourself up. It's about taking an honest look at yourself with the intention of learning and growing. It's a practice that requires courage but leads to profound personal transformation. Journaling is a powerful tool for self-reflection. The act of putting thoughts on paper helps us see them more clearly and objectively. By reviewing our day, noting what went well, and identifying areas for improvement, we become more self-aware. Marcus Aurelius himself practiced journaling, recording his thoughts in his meditations. His writings are a testament to the power of self-reflection as a tool for personal growth. Chapter 9. Wisdom from the Stoics for Negative Thoughts and Self-Doubt. The wisdom of the Stoics has stood the test of time because it speaks directly to the human condition. Here are some powerful Stoic quotes to remember. "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." Marcus Aurelius. "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Epictetus. "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Marcus Aurelius. "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." Seneca. These teachings remind us that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. We have the power to change our thoughts, our perspectives, and ultimately our lives. Reflecting on these quotes and internalizing them can help us when we face challenging moments. Imagine carrying these words with you like a shield, ready to use them when negative thoughts start to creep in. These timeless lessons serve as reminders that we have more control over our inner world than we often realize. Chapter 10. Building Emotional Strength Through Daily Practices. True transformation comes not just from understanding Stoic principles, but from integrating them into our daily routines. Building emotional strength is about consistency. Consider establishing a morning ritual of meditation where you reflect on Stoic quotes or visualize your ideal response to challenges. Journaling is another effective tool. Write about your thoughts, emotions, and the lessons learned from each day's events. Over time, these small, intentional practices will add up, creating a solid foundation of resilience. The Stoics also believed in the value of preparing for challenges. By visualizing potential obstacles, we train ourselves to remain calm and composed when facing the unexpected. These exercises aren't about expecting the worst, but about equipping ourselves to handle whatever comes with grace and determination. Another practice that can build emotional strength is setting intentions for the day. Before diving into your tasks, take a moment to set an intention. It could be as simple as, today, I will focus on what I can control, or I will approach challenges with patience. Setting intentions helps anchor us in Stoic principles and guides our actions throughout the day. Chapter 11. Cultivating Joy Through the Stoic Lens. A lesser-known aspect of Stoicism is its emphasis on joy. The Stoics didn't advocate for a joyless existence. Far from it. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the beauty of the present moment and finding joy in simple pleasures. By removing the unrealistic expectations we place on ourselves and others, we make room for genuine joy. The Stoics teach us that real happiness comes not from external success, but from inner tranquility and aligning our actions with our values. Imagine the joy of fully experiencing a moment without judgment or expectation, taking in a beautiful sunset, laughing with a friend, or completing a task that matters to you. By embracing the Stoic approach to joy, we learn to find fulfillment in the everyday, turning even ordinary moments into sources of profound contentment. Joy also comes from contributing to something greater than ourselves. The Stoics believed in the importance of acting with virtue and contributing to the common good. When we align our actions with our values and do something that benefits others, we experience a deep sense of purpose and fulfillment. This kind of joy is enduring because it is rooted in meaning rather than fleeting pleasures. The journey to inner peace. Overcoming negative thoughts and self-doubt is not a one-time effort. It's a continuous practice. It's about committing to changing your perspective, focusing on what you can control, building resilience, surrounding yourself with positivity, and practicing gratitude, acceptance, and self-reflection. The journey is not always easy, but it is worth it. As you begin to put these Stoic principles into practice, you'll find that the voice of your inner critic grows quieter. You'll become more resilient in the face of setbacks, more at peace with yourself, and more capable of living a life true to your values. Remember, the Stoics were not superhuman. They faced the same challenges we do. But by applying their wisdom, they found a way to navigate life's ups and downs with grace and composure. And so can we. The universe is change, and our life is what our thoughts make it. Let us choose thoughts that empower, uplift, and help us become the best version of ourselves. By embracing these teachings and making them a part of our daily lives, we take the first step towards a life of inner peace, resilience, and joy. The journey is ongoing, but every day offers an opportunity to grow, to reflect, and to live with intention. Let Stoicism be your guide, and watch as you transform your relationship with your thoughts, your challenges, and ultimately yourself.